Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing good and having a wonderful day. In this video, I am going to talk about that how I was able to find a very interesting vulnerability that was running on Nginx reverse proxy. Okay, so when I tried to access that page, I was getting the exact same page that we all guys see, the default Nginx page, but upon diving deep into it, I was able to find a really interesting vulnerability that straight away led to remote code execution in a private pen test. So that's what we're going to see in this particular video. But as always, before diving deep into this video, if you haven't checked out my previous video in which I have talked about an interesting SQL injection that I have found in one of the private pen tests, then go ahead and check it out. The link is given in the description, as well as you can see it at the right side of the screen. And now, with that being said, let us get started. Okay, so before diving deep into this video, let me just first give you guys the context of what that particular application was. Okay, so the application which I was testing was actually a very huge application because all the assets were in actually scope. Okay, and from what information I have gathered so far, the application, the company is moving towards AI applications, AI based functionality. So I was seeing that there are a lot of chatbots are implemented because I have done some penetration testing on them before, so I knew that okay, there is some change in functionalities because I can see that there are a lot of AI implementation on the application. Based on that, when I did more of reconnaissance using subdomain enumeration and all those things, I got a particular subdomain that was running Nginx. Okay, and this particular subdomain, because there were a lot of subdomains from them which just had the default Nginx page, and this was the same as well, but what caught me off guard is that their subdomain had a very interesting name, which was something like ai.mcp.target.com. This was something that gave me kind of a hint of what the application might be holding, because as we can see from the subdomain itself, it's saying ai.mcp. So there's a high possibility that this particular server was running MCP on it. Right, MCP is nothing but model context protocol. We have already spoken about this a lot. Basically, it's a way to expose the function or tools to the LLM. You are going to create like a function or create like a tool, then you're going to give a little bit of short description about it, like what this tool can do, and then you're going to feed all of this information to the local LLM. And whenever LLM feels that it needs to call the tool, it will check that which of the relevant tool are the one which it should be using, and based on the context that we have given, is going to execute the tool. Right, so that was what I assumed initially. Okay, and this was like the more or less story of what the application was. And now let's dive straight into the practical and see that what exactly was the security issue over there. Okay, so just for the practical demonstration, I have created this very small lab that is replicating the exact scenario where I was able to find this particular security issue. Okay, so let's try to understand what it is. So right now you can see I'm trying to access that application, and I'm seeing the default page which is welcome to Nginx, right? So obviously the next step, do some reconnaissance, right? Do some content discovery, maybe discover content from Google Docs, get all URLs and all sort of thing, right? And if you guys are confused about how we can do in-depth reconnaissance on a particular target, I have created a very interesting course on that, around content discovery, where you can learn about from the basics like subdomain enumeration to the very depth of how you can do reconnaissance. And at the end of that section, we also have practical demonstration on real world targets, that shows that how you can just through reconnaissance can find very interesting high or critical level vulnerabilities, and all on practical applications. So if you want to check it out, you feel free to check that out. The link is given in the description, and as well as it is attached in the pinned comment. Okay, and yeah, and if you do know how we can recon properly, so let's proceed further. As I was saying, that this application had a subdomain something like ai.mcp.target.com, and I have previous experience on these kind of application. So upon doing some research on internet, I was able to find a very interesting endpoint, which was this. And I prefer that you guys should note it, so that whenever you're encountering with applications like this, you can check it out. Okay, the endpoint was MCP/SSE, and the moment I hit enter, I got this particular response. Nothing but just a static message saying okay. right? Now, in many of the cases, when a beginner or an intermediate level security penetration tester, when they have a bunch of target and when they see that okay, this page is just showing static message saying okay, they are going to leave it and they're going to move to a different target, but this is where you need to understand the application in depth, because from what I've seen, I knew that this particular application, even though it is returning okay, there might be a way through which maybe we can enumerate it further, right? Here I have used some AI tools like ChatGPT and all. I gave this particular information that I'm seeing this particular endpoint and how we can go from it, basically what are the next step. And then I found that this particular endpoint might be exposing the MCP server. So if you have a MCP connector, you can try to connect with the MCP server and see whether it is working or not, right? Yeah, that's what I understood. Okay, from there I created like a Python script and then I was able to connect with the MCP tool. So let me just show you the Python tool and then I will get back to you. Okay, so here I have created a very small Python script that is going to connect to the MCP server, and that's going to enumerate whether there are any tools that can be accessible without any kind of authentication at all. And do remember guys that by default MCP based servers does not require authentication to set up. Okay, and this is like one of the biggest security issue, because many people that I have seen, they have not configured the MCP server grant tools after authentication, right? So let's try to go ahead and see how the tool is looking. So I'm going to type this command, which is Python 3 MCP client, and this is the particular server, right, that we have found, the server, and MCP/SSE. Hit enter, and as you can see, we are successfully connected, right? If you remember on Nginx, we are seeing just okay, but right now you can see we are getting a lot of information, and and this is the exact thing which I have found in the real world application. When I connected with the MCP server, I saw that there were a bunch of tools, not just execute shell, but out of all those tools, there was this one tool which is right over here, which is execute shell. Okay, that can be used to execute shell on the server. And when I saw this, I was kind of mind blown. So I'm going to click on one, and then you can see that it is asking for the command that you want to execute, right? And it is exactly what happened in my case. So I'm just going to execute a command, who am I, and you can see I'm successfully able to execute the command on the MCP server using this MCP expose tool, right? And the moment I found this was a straight remote code execution vulnerability. So you can see that from a simple Nginx page, I was able to find this particular interesting endpoint. I was able to build a tool on my own, and then finally got a remote code execution vulnerability, right? And it was as simple as that, right? The main key point here is that understand your target in depth, not just the technical thing, but also try to understand everything about the target, what they were before and how much they have changed, what are the new things that they're trying to implement. Whenever you're seeing Nginx, right, remember that Nginx can hold a lot of different kind of application. Maybe sometimes it can be a simple web application, sometimes it can be a MCP server, as you can see right over here. So that, because Nginx is nothing but a reverse engine proxy, right? That's mainly it. So you need to understand the target on your own, because based on the subdomain and based on the previous history with the target, I was able to find this particular interesting vulnerability, right? But in your case, you need to understand how the Nginx application is configured, whether there's something that you can go and get, right? And the interesting key point here is also that never ever skip a target just because you're seeing a static file, right? Whenever you're seeing a static output, static response, first check on which directory you are getting a static response. It is something unique, because in this case, the endpoint that was showing the message okay was very unique, right? And hence I was able to conclude that there can be something behind this particular simple okay message, correct? And that's what you need to understand. So static response doesn't always mean that there is nothing on the application. Try to understand the endpoint and try to ask this question for yourself, that why this endpoint, even though it's a very different endpoint, is just showing a static message. Is there something which is hiding inside it? And try to explore the application from there. So that's pretty much it for this particular video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any doubts, if you have any issues, feel free to let me know your doubts or issues in the comment section. Also, I'm going to attach the link of this particular software into the description as well, so if you want, you can play with it. And once again guys, if you have any doubts, just feel free to let me know. And now, with that being said, keep learning, keep hacking, and thank you so much for watching this video.